In recovery, there comes a moment of truth. Will we keep trying to run the show ourselves, or will we surrender? Step 3 of Narcotics Anonymous asks us to make one of the biggest decisions of our lives, to turn our will and our lives over to the care of a higher power as we understand Him. This step is about more than belief. It's about action. It's about moving from fear to trust, from self-will to God's will, from chaos to peace. And it's often the turning point where recovery truly begins. I'm a recovering addict named Steve, and this is On Life's Terms. What Step 3 means. Step 3 says we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. At first, many newcomers misunderstand this step. They think it means giving up all responsibility or becoming powerless puppets. But that's not what NA teaches. Step 3 is about trust. It's about admitting that self-will, our old way of running things, only led to pain, destruction, and addiction. Turning our will over means surrendering the obsession to control everything. Turning our lives over means letting a higher power guide us into a new way of living. The illusion of control. In addiction, control is the great illusion. We tell ourselves we can handle it, we can stop any time, we can manage our lives. But the reality, the more we try to control, the more unmanageable life becomes. Resentments, fear, relationships, jobs. Everything spins out of control when we insist on running the show. Step 3 invites us to see the truth. Control was never ours to begin with. This realization isn't weakness, it's freedom. Because once we admit we don't have to be in charge of everything, we can finally let go of the weight we've been carrying. Step 2 introduced the idea of a higher power, that there is something greater than ourselves that can restore us to sanity. Step 3 takes it further. It asks us not just to believe, but to decide. Belief is passive. Decision is active. Step 3 is a commitment. I'm willing to trust this power. I'm willing to let go of my way and try a new way. It doesn't mean we never struggle again. It doesn't mean we don't wrestle with doubt. But it does mean we begin to practice trust, one day at a time, one choice at a time. What God as we understand Him means. For many newcomers, the word God is a barrier. Some carry wounds from religion. Others don't believe in God at all. NA makes this clear. Step 3 is not about adopting a specific religion. It's about finding a power greater than ourselves that we can trust. God as we understand Him means freedom. For some, it's a traditional God. For others, it's the spirit of the group, power of love, or the principles of recovery themselves. The point isn't what we believe, it's that we believe. That we stop relying on self alone and start relying on something greater. Self-will versus God's will. In NA, self-will is the driving force of addiction. It's the voice that says, I want what I want when I want it, no matter who gets hurt. God's will, on the other hand, is simple. It's living in alignment with spiritual principles: honesty, humility, service, love. Step 3 teaches us to ask, am I acting out of self-will or am I seeking God's will? The difference is huge. Self-will leads to chaos. God's will leads to peace. Self-will isolates. God's will connects. Self-will destroys. God's will heals. Many people fear step 3 because surrender feels like defeat. But in recovery, surrender is strength. When we surrender, we stop fighting battles we can't win. We stop trying to control the uncontrollable. We stop living as slaves to fear, anger, and obsession. Surrender is not giving up, it's giving over. And in that giving over, we discover freedom. Those who practice step 3 often describe a sense of relief, like laying down a heavy burden they've carried for years. For the first time, they're not alone in running their lives. How step 3 connects to steps 1 and 2. Step 3 doesn't stand alone. It flows naturally from the first 2 steps. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless. Step 2, we came to believe in a power greater than ourselves. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over. It's a progression. First, we see our powerlessness. Then, we find hope in something greater. Finally, we choose to trust that power. This decision sets the foundation for every step that follows. Without it, the process stalls. With it, the journey begins to move forward with real momentum. Practical ways to live Step 3. Step 3 isn't just words, it's daily practice. Members of NA live Step 3 by praying or meditating in the morning, asking for guidance. Pausing during the day to ask, am I acting on self-will or God's will? Talking with sponsors or trusted friends before making big decisions. Letting go of outcomes, trusting that things will work out as they're meant to. Serving others, putting principles before personalities. Each of these actions reinforces the decision of Step 3 to live in trust, not in fear. The traditions in Step 3. Step 3 is not only personal, it connects to the traditions of NA. Tradition 2 says, for our group purpose, there's but one ultimate authority. A loving God is who may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. We do not govern. This tradition reflects Step 3 in action. Just as individuals turn their will over to a higher power, groups turn decisions over to the collective conscience guided by that power. It reminds us that surrender and trust are not just personal, they are how the fellowship stays united and alive. Stories of transformation. In meetings, we hear countless stories of how Step 3 changes lives. For example, there's the addict who spent years trying to control everything, only to find peace when they prayed for willingness. The newcomer, terrified of relapse, who found strength by turning their fear over to a higher power. The old-timer, who learned that surrender wasn't a one-time act, but a daily choice. Each story points to the same truth. Step 3 works. It transforms fear into faith, chaos into order, and loneliness into connection. The ongoing nature of Step 3. Step 3 is not something we do once and move on. It's a daily decision, sometimes an hourly. Every time we face fear, resentment, or temptation, we are given the choice, control or surrender. Over time, practicing Step 3 builds trust. It strengthens faith. It teaches us to live in alignment with spiritual principles instead of selfish desires. And the more we practice, the more we experience serenity, the very serenity that once seemed impossible. Step 3 is the great turning point of recovery. It's where we stop trying to run the show and start letting a higher power guide us. It's where we trade control for surrender, fear for trust, and chaos for peace. If you're struggling with Step 3, remember, you don't have to figure it all out at once. Start with willingness. Start with a decision. Start with one small act of trust. On life's terms means learning to live surrendered, choosing faith over fear, trust over control. If this message spoke to you, hit like, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to On Life's Terms for more recovery inspiration. Because when we let go and let God, we truly begin to live. Together, we do recover.